What is going on, my good people? Welcome and thank you for joining me. It isn't just going to be me, I got some people with me, but this is the after discussion for OWN unscripted TV show, All the Single Ladies. If you guys haven't checked it out, you should. Beautiful and amazing Black women sharing their stories when it comes to love, dating, how they were raised, what's going on, and how they made it through, and their love lessons at the end. It's amazing. We're going to talk about it. Grab your glass of wine, share this with a girlfriend, and stay tuned. All right, what up, what up? I'm your host, Jamie Alexander, and this is the after discussion for OWN TV's All the Single Ladies. And this is season 1, episode 6, Bad Boys. I think we all know a little bit more about that than we want to know. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one up in her, which is my girl, creator of Surrender Sessions, Andra.
Hey.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. We in here.
We in here. Girl, when you said the Bad Boys, I was like, I need another bottle so I could do the clink, clink, clink.
Right,
clink,
exactly.
clink.
Bad boys.
Come out and
you
play.
feel me? Yeah. That's the first thing that came to mind when I heard this. I had to.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah, girl. And you know how we do. I got my party people in the house. You have seen her on all the TV shows, okay, because she's famous. That's my girl, Tani Belafonte.
So
I know.
silly.
I always get you with that.
Just all the shows.
All the shows. They're all of them. Just turn on the TV. Vote. There she is.
I'm here for it. Hey.
Well, I love. Hey.
Wow.
Look at us. We look all
Hello.
cute and shiny. Now we're in here. So we do have a special guest. Asia is going to join us. She was actually on this episode, but I don't see her in here yet. So, you know how we do. What did you guys think of the show overall, like the episode overall?
Overall, it was, it's unfortunate that, yes, Bad Boys is something that we can all relate to. Just every time we hear some of the ladies' stories, it's always like, dang, it takes us back or takes me back to just my own drama, my own moment. Of course, while watching the show, Asia's story, of course, was the one that was like, dang,
Girl.
I can't believe it. So I'm excited that we actually get a chance to speak with her. I do know her personally. And so that's, pretty cool. But then also just, her story seemed to just be, at least to me, it was the most dramatic, where it was like, see now. Oh, and it kind of like her story, but a little bit also went in with like other themes, like side chicks theme, and even the cheaters theme, and there were definitely a few other layers, that her story in particular picked up on. But no, still a good episode. Still love to hear it from these ladies, and appreciate just their vulnerability and sharing what it's like to be out here in these dating streets.
In the streets. It's ghetto out here.
Yeah,
it's real ghetto. But we're here. Tani, before I get your take, I think I'm gonna just have to go ahead and bring in Asia herself, because we're gonna have to talk straight to the girl, okay? What's going on, Asia?
Hi, Hi, everybody.
Hi, we in here cutting up.
Listen, I keep hearing the same thing. Like everybody, I vent to my best friend about my husband this, my husband that, and he didn't into this. She's like, girl, everybody got the same shit to say about these streets. I'm like, hey,
Girl, just go on and stay in the house.
Exactly.
Stay in the house.
Exactly. She was just like, figure it out. Figure it out. You made it that far. It could be worked on. Figure it out. Don't step outside.
Listen.
Oh, man.
Okay. It's not worth it.
Rough.
This is not
and
cute
in every city, LA, New York, Midwest, wherever, everybody,
Paris, London,
yeah, exactly. Not just the US,
Spain, Barcelona. I mean,
Oh,
Everybody
Johannesburg.
tries to blame it on a city, but it's worldwide. These are worldwide problems.
Worldwide
Yeah,
problems.
worldwide.
Worldwide. I concur. But here we are anyway, smiling and
Yeah.
here for this conversation.
That's
'Cause
all we get. That's all we can do is push
that's-
through it.
Exactly. That's all we can do.
Yes.
So I was just asking Tani, because we always talk about how we feel about the episode overall. So you're coming in on this, Asia. But Tani, what did you think of the episode?
I personally felt like it was kind of a mild Bad Boys episode. Like, I've definitely heard way worse stories. I've definitely heard a lot more trifling things that has gone on than that. But I mean, at the same time, like, yes, Asia, your story was definitely the one that took the cake for sure. The fight down at the hotel, that was literally the cherry on the top. Okay, an absolute mess of a Sunday for sure. But yeah, like, I just thought that, I don't know if it was just more interested in stories or maybe those women didn't want to share those stories. But I mean, it was kind of like, you know, scale of 1 to 10, it was like Bad Boys 4, you know what I mean? It was
Right.
like, it was like,
Yeah.
Like, actually, I felt like that episode that we covered a few weeks back with the dudes who had double lives and like a whole,
Yes.
like, I
Yeah.
thought those should have been the Bad Boys. Like, I thought that episode was crazy.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I guess maybe that's good. Maybe that means there's less of these occurrences. I don't know.
I wish that was the case.
Right. That's optimistic. And I love that. That's the Libra in you. That's
it's
sweet.
really
but
positive.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it.
Trying
I
to
don't think
find a
that's
balance or something.
So Asia, when you were there, you didn't get to see too many of the other girls, right? Did you get to meet
No.
anybody, or so you
No,
watching the episodes the first time you got to hear
Oh
them?
yeah. I mean, I don't want to assume everybody else's filming time was like mine, but it was everybody had their own slot, different days, different time slots. So coming and going, I saw no one. It was just I was the only cast member that I saw. I think I might have passed somebody leaving. I can't say, you know, who it might have been or whatever. I think we all might have crossed paths coming and going, but we all filmed separately, probably to give people comfort in knowing that, like, it's just you and the producer and a lot of staff, but you know, it's just comfort knowing that it's just you telling your story and everything. So
Yeah, did you get to watch the episode in its totality?
oh, I did. Yes.
What
I
did you
actually
think
need
about
I
it?
need
Yeah.
to catch up on the last one I didn't see yet, but I thought it was interesting that our stories were categorized the way it was, like red flags, religion, bad boys. And I agree. I don't know if I would put my story in Bad Boys. And I was like, because if I knew I was being in Bad Boys, I would have chose a different situation with a different person. You know, if I knew I had to, you know, I was fitting into this theme. But that's not the point. But but it was I mean, I agree. I think there's definitely other stories that could be told or whatever. It's not a competition, but if we're telling stories, you know. But it was all still very dramatic, you know, all of our situations and everything. So I think just like all the other stories, there's so many women that were like, me too, my sister, me. Like, it's just, we can all relate in some way to every story.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sometimes I wonder if guys ever check this out, and if I'm pretty sure they don't, but you know, and just kind of think to themselves, like, this is what's going on, or dang, I was that dude, or my boy is like that. Like,
it would be nice. I think that's giving them too much, unfortunately, but I don't see them really watching and be like, wow, is this their experience?
Yeah,
Maybe I should take some things from this and apply it to my life and spread the word amongst me and my guy friends, and you know, so we can do better. No.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Would be nice, but no.
Yeah, that's asking too much. We know. We already know. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure there's plenty of critique out there, though, from these toxic podcasts. So I haven't necessarily seen any of the feedback, but, you know, there's a lot of these single male, you know, podcasts that are out there. And so I'm certain, you know, there's a lot of the critique and, you know, even some of the critique we've received on standards, you know, so wouldn't doubt.
I never understand. It's like, who do you think we're dating? Like, who do you think we're choosing from? Like, it's
Right.
you. You're
Hello?
you're the pool. Like,
Yeah,
I
but the
don't
pool is
understand how they
pissed
do
in.
not.
The pool is tainted. The pool
Yeah.
is filthy. It's murky. It's gross.
I heard a guy tell me earlier, actually, I think yesterday or something, and he said, like, he sent me a
Yesterday.
video about how women waste their youth on bad boys, and then when they get older, they all of a sudden want like a straight, like a guy who's like a little bit more straight and polished. And I said, well, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think what happens is that when you're younger and you're dating these guys, they're like, well, I don't really want a relationship, but I don't really want anything serious. So you kind of find yourself in what Asia did, like a situationship. It's like you're in this thing with somebody that you like, they like you, and you find yourself here. And yeah, they might have like bad boy tendencies, but I don't necessarily think that that's what we're like, I'm going for the bad boy. And
No.
then it's like, yeah, I wasted my time because I was kind of waiting on this person. But don't blame me for for trying to be patient, right? And then my other thing is just like, we have glorified, particularly in the Black community, we know hip hop, we know all of these things, and we have glorified those men. We have put them on a pedestal. We have said that these are the men that we're supposed to want or desire, or this is what's sexy and this is what's hot. And then who gets blamed? Like, at the end of the day, now we get blamed for like being attracted to this aesthetic of a man who supposedly has all this masculinity, and now it makes him like the bad boy kind of thing. But it's like, you've been constantly pushing these images down our throats and these narratives, and now we're like, all right, yeah, I want a bad boy too, yeah, what's up? And now it's like, see, you don't even want the nice guys because the nice guys are here too. And it's like, I don't know if the nice guys talk like that, but
That's the group chat. The group chat.
Yeah, that's
sounds
the
like
group
that.
chat tone. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does.
But it's just
But
so frustrating to always just kind of feel like you're the root and you're the blame of everything that other people do.
Yeah.
I think it would be fair to give men and women, but in this particular case, we're talking about single women, give us some grace when we're at a certain point in our lives. Like, it wasn't until I left that toxic, messed up situation and several others in my 20s that I realized that I was preyed upon, that I was manipulated and I was sought after strictly because I was young and dumb and I didn't know any better, especially considering the age difference. Like, and then it's funny, when a couple of friends of mine were actually watching the party, and we kept pausing it for like hours just to talk and tell other women told stories and things like that, and pour more wine and all that stuff. And I really started to think about the age, and because I knew he was like significantly older than me, but I actually never really knew just he's 53 today. And grown. He is 53 today, and I am 36. So he was way too damn old for me. But what I didn't realize was that those are the women. When I looked at his history and his track record and guys in his circle, several circles, they all want the young girls. Yes, because they're more attractive and younger and tighter and things sit up right and are symmetrical and all of that. But also up here, we're just like, okay, like we don't know any better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't realize until after all the damage had been done, and I'm developing emotional maturity and mental maturity at that time. It's just like, well, shit, I was kind of preyed on, and then now like that I'm too mature and I know too much. Now he's just going on after somebody else that's also young and dumb. It's like, well, damn it. I mean, it's a learning experience, but you feel at least I felt swindled. I felt totally
You were
duped. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were. And, to a couple of those points, I would say, because Tani, you mentioned early on our dating, I used to date and have a good time. Like, I wasn't in no situationships. These men wanted to be my boyfriend. My beginning stages of dating, I mean, my age, I'm 40. It ain't like I'm 70. I'm not talking about the 50s here. I'm talking about when Nelly was hot. Like, okay, let's just, we ain't going that far back now. Like,
Right.
I get it, but it's just like, 90s R&B had everybody in a chokehold. I was
Mhm.
always getting flowers on my first date. Dudes were real upset if I wasn't returning phone calls, and they just wanted to be my boyfriend. So situationship, this is new. Situationship, this mess was born in what, 2015? I'll give it that max. Like, I don't know what's happening.
2008-ish.
08? Are we doing 08? Like,
2007, 8, yeah.
yeah, because see, even then I was still, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I can concur on that, but it's just like, yeah, my first couple of guys, they were, bad boys and all that. But when it comes to like nice guys, some of that is a performance too. And so when you think about like what bad boys portray, it was the persona, it was the confidence, it was the shawty your mind. Like they had the confidence to come and get it. And that's what we like, and I even tried to date a guy that was a little more on what you would think is the nerdy side. But it worked for me because he wasn't playing around. He was like, I don't care. I work at the Apple store. I'm in a band. I want you. I was like, well, this little Apple store, his little band is cute. I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Right.
I'm here for it. So it's just like there were traits that I feel like we were attracted to that were like sold, but it also what speaks to our innate nature. Like even for you, Asia, even though it was definitely a manipulative situation. I'm sure he showed up like a man, just like Melania's. She talking about steak and lobster and champagne. That's fresh when you're 21.
Yeah, getting traveling opportunities. Like, why not?
I was wide open. I was
wide open.
Like, I hope I made it clear on the show. If not, I will do it here. Like, it wasn't just like, okay, he's older than me and we're just in this situationship, or like I know I'm the side chick and I have a particular like role. I had been places I've never been. I was flued out. If I'm being really honest, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in LA. He moved me here. Like I set up my life here. Like my life is what it is currently because of that situation, like, or situationship. Like I left the country. I got my passport. I had nice things. I had nice experiences, and I'm at getting tables and doing all this wine and dining and hobnobbing and goose smooching with the celebrities and things like that. Like I really thought I was like because he was giving me this experience and dick, and I thought that I'm living the best life.
We're together. Like,
yeah, you like, sure were, girl. You sure were. Yeah. You were. And that's the life right there.
Yeah, and I thought I was living it, even though I knew my position and that it would never be anything more. I still thought I was in control and I was really enjoying myself until things got complicated. But I was having an amazing experience, and so I was like, okay, well, somebody that doesn't fit into this category can't or is not offering me this, so this is it.
There's definitely something to be said about that, and it's interesting because in our 20s, a lot of people tell us have fun, so it's like, okay, well, we're out here having fun, and yes, we make some naive decisions because we're immature, we're only in our 20s, and so yeah, it's interesting that there's this blame that comes back on us and the lack of grace that you were speaking to, Asia, of like, well, what about him? Like, what about his accountability and the fact that he preyed on me and he was the mature one, or should have been a bit more mature, but there wasn't the expectation that he had to be, nor is there still, any consequences that are coming back at him as they should be. You know what I mean? So it's a really, really interesting dynamic of how, again, it kind of comes back on, well, the woman, you should have been the one with the better judgment. It's like, I'm just out here trying to kick it, and and live life and enjoy my 20s the same way that many of you do, and so yeah, it's can be
somebody's
unfair
manipulating my feelings and my thoughts and my mind and on all these things. So
especially the feedback that I've got. I mean, to be clear, I was, before the show even aired, as soon as it was done, when I decided this is the story that I'm going to speak on, I was already prepared for what the response was going to be. And it's to be expected, like you know, fraternizing or getting, you know, having relations with married men is extremely frowned upon, and for obvious reasons. It's like, if you know, if you're aware, why do it, right? Again, young and dumb. But I can't lean too heavy on that, because morally, I can honestly admit that it wasn't my marriage. I just wasn't. I wanted what I wanted in that moment, and I felt like we came to an understanding and agreement, and I went along with it. And so now that the show has aired, and obviously that, and to be clear, that was like 10 years ago. So a lot of things have happened and changed since then. And so like the commentary and all the feedback and DMs and everything I'm getting is like, everybody's coming for my neck, and like, your feelings aren't valid, and why are you fighting? You're fighting another woman over another man, and just like this, and you know, just everybody's coming at me. I'm just like, well, goddamn, like, he was the one that made the vows. Like, what he doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was expecting that. So it's like, okay, you know, whatever. The good thing that I can really take from that situation is that I was able to learn from it. And what I learned is that my bar was way too low. My bar was on the floor. Okay. Like, I needed to pick my bar up and throw it up in the sky and leave it there. Like, I had some work to do on myself, and it forced me to do that. So I'm grateful for the situation for a lot of reasons. But the fact that I was able to like walk away from that, you know, a little scathed, you know, after the fight and everything. But it really forced me to just do better for myself. So very happy about that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all the commentary. I think it's also part of the problem, because we don't have the same expectations when it comes to men and what they should be doing. And it is really interesting when you're young, because, you know, I dated for a while, but then I committed. I was engaged to be married very early in my early 20s and did everything, but nobody was around to show this man how to be my husband. So you cannot scream at women about having a husband or settling down or the nice guys and all this. I don't know one woman who didn't try in their early 20s. You know, most of us, we were engaged, we had longtime boyfriends, but with the men not being properly equipped to be husbands, everyone's telling them to sow their wild oats. Their eyes, their nose is wide open, and they getting everything that they can get because they young and everybody's young. And just living that way and not thinking about, nobody's thinking about their 30s, nobody's thinking about the future, nobody's thinking about their kids. A lot of women are, but just the trajectory that these guys are on generally. And you know, the dude you were talking to was 53. I got another friend who was just dealing with somebody who's 53, and they've been dating. She asked him all the questions, did all the things, and he wasn't honest up front. He waited until they done kicked it and kicked it and kicked it. She done damn near got keys to his house. And now something that I asked you about is coming out. Sir, you're 53. Like, what's going on? What's happening here? Like, everything is very misaligned. So the joke is low key on us when it comes to that kind of stuff. Cause it's like, I don't know what you would have expected a young woman to do with any of this, nice guy or not.
Right.
Yeah. And even not necessarily being in our 20s, like, I'm thinking about the women who were married to, I think it was maybe the first episode, and I forget the title of it, but it was with the men who were being cheaters. And it's like, they also, you know, admitted that they asked the questions, they did the things for the vetting, and still, you know, they were lied to. And so it almost doesn't matter. Like, there's one aspect, of course, yes, with our own immaturity and lack of awareness or whatever, but then it's like, you can still do the right things and be courted and see what their relationship is like with their mama, you know, all these things to try to qualify, and still ends up getting punked in the end. It's like,
punked. Where is Ashton Kutcher? Come out.
It's all a risk, even if you do things, and it's when you said the right way, that was like triggering, because fast forward to where my life is now. Don't get me wrong, I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very fortunate with my life. You know, I have a new husband, a new baby, you know, bringing a blended family together. Like, this is what I happily together in a healthy relationship. This is what I wanted more than anything. But what I've realized is that even when you do things the right way, there could still be so many other unresolved issues, or issues you didn't even know were a thing. You didn't know that they existed. And it really, when you go back and you ask questions and you do all the work, it obviously, our first relationships that we have with anybody is with our parents, and it always stems from our childhood. and what we're instilling into our children. And so, like, with the men that are out here that are in these streets, that, you know, these are the options that we have. So even the ones that, you know, seemingly have it all together, and you look at the parents, how does he treat his mother, and he's educated and he's a gentleman and all these things. And it's just like, you don't realize until maybe later something might be triggering, where it's just like, oh, you're a psychopath. And even though
There
you
it
did
is.
all the
There it is.
even though you did all the right things, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm not just trying to make this a male problem, but the roles could also be reversed. It's just
Absolutely.
like, as long as you understand going into adulthood while dating, you know, no matter what you want, no matter what you end up in, a situationship, relationship, marriage, polyamorous, blah, 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 whatever, there's risk. You have to understand the risk, and you just have to know that it exists and that it could happen to any of us.
Yeah. Oh,
The
that's
risk
the part
is
that
fine,
I'm.
you know, they
Yeah.
always, sorry, Jamie. I was
No, no,
like,
no, go
the
ahead.
risk, I don't mind. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mhm.
don't mind taking the risk, because that's what we do in our life, in our everyday lives. Like, we are well-to-do women, in terms of like, we're ambitious, we're going after our dreams, we're not sitting back, even if it takes us a little longer, whatever, but we're gonna go get it. But it's like the selfish manipulation. That's what I call it. You know, when you tell somebody what they want to hear just so that you can get what you want, that to me, no, it's no longer part of the risk. Like, that's deliberate, you know.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
intentional.
still a part of the risk, because you don't know who's going to do it, who the person is. But it's just like, you've created a whole nother layer of like an insecurity because of your selfish manipulation. You know, all you have to do with women, and I think we've said this before, Jamie, on this show, and if not another talk back, if you are honest with us, you will probably get everything you want and then some. Like, there's really no reason to lie to us, because when we see a man that we say, yo, girl, I met somebody and I'm here, like,
I'm
you
right
will
here.
almost, right, you will turn a blind eye to things. You probably, making them and be like, oh, well, I guess I can deal with that, and you'll just find a way. So it's like, you don't, 9 times out of 10, you're still going to get that woman, but there's going to be just so much more respect, and you're going to have really built something on a solid foundation if you can at least say, okay, listen, I know this is not what you want to hear, but there is a woman, and we've been on and off for the last 3 years, and this is the time that she's now coming back on. I haven't talked to her in a few months, but now she's back, and we've had a pattern, and I care about you, and I love what we do. I have a history with her. So, like, let's just talk through it. Let's figure it out. Let's just see.
It's easier to categorize you like other women and be like, no, she's not going to understand, and she's not going to want to work with me, but I don't want to let her go because I want her and A, B, C, and D. So I'm just going to tell a lot of lies until I can't keep up with them anymore. And yeah.
Exhausting.
And
How
see me
exhausting.
stay.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
kind of stupid.
And then see me stays, right? Because then some women will stay, and then the rest will leave, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll marry this one. Like,
And the cold part about it is, like, with being honest, I think especially today, I feel like men would be so much more surprised how open women are, because I know so many who are not interested in marriage. They're okay with being, the auntie for the rest of their lives. And, so it's like a lot more people are embracing just single life on all levels across the spectrum. So while, yes, whoever you're with may not be with it, it doesn't mean that you can't run into somebody else who will. So do yourself a favor and whoever you're with, and at least respect them enough. Like, if anything, just respect them as a human being and like allow them to make that choice for themselves, whether or not they want to be a part of a multiple situation, polyamorous thing, or whatever it may be. Like, just give them the respect to choose.
But see, what I'm noticing is a lot of people don't have this respect for themselves. They don't have this understanding of themselves. A lot of these, and it is, I'm glad you brought that up, Asia. It is men and women, because I know men that are fairly decent and they're like, this girl was a liar. And I'm like, well, damn, I get it. She put on a good front for a few months, but this is not it. But a lot of these people are not honest with themselves, I was glad to hear, like, for the raised by religion episode. I think that was one. There's a lot of guys who are hiding behind the religion and going in and out of the churches, knowing that they don't want this. You know, you don't want this life, but you were told this is how you have to be, or you should want a wife and kids, or monogamy. If you're not monogamous, so now you're hiding and lying because you got urges you ain't dealt with. So there's just so much behind, like, people honoring other people when they're not in the habit of honoring themselves. So I don't expect a dude that can't be honest with himself to turn around and be honest with me. And I think that that's more where the problem is, as opposed to, like, how many people you want to sleep with. Okay, we get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. But, like, beyond that, are you being real with yourself? Do you want to be a husband? What does monogamy mean to you? What does it look like? What is your practice? Like, who are you being when you're not in front of my face and trying to get, like, there's just so much more to it. And to me, it's just becoming harder to understand who's really doing the work and who's not. It's kind of hard to decipher when the memes and the books and the Bible verses, and you can get it all. These dudes can spit. Y'all know the things, you know? So
I think when we are conditioned to be somebody or do certain things that we're just taught by society or by our parents or by our churches, our religion or whatever, to do things a particular way, even when we don't necessarily agree with that, that turns into an internal struggle and an internal battle. And we start, on the outside fitting that mold because this is what I'm supposed to do. But on the inside, or maybe in your double life, you start doing things that do not match that. Like the same ex that I spoke about on the show, that he's still married to the same woman, but this is his second marriage. His first marriage lasted all of a few months because same situation, he was cheating or whatever, had a whole family on the side with like a stripper, so it was a mess. Anyway, but I remember asking him, why did you get married? Like, I'm the side chick. Like, I know your life. I know other side. Like, I know enough about you to know that you're not the marrying type. Like, why? I asked him, why did you get married? Because you really wanted to? Like, at the time, you felt like you wanted to have this monogamous, normal relationship, or what? And he just said, no, it's just what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? It was like, well, we dated for this amount of time and we bought a house and like, it was time to get a ring and it was just what you're supposed to do. And like, in that moment, I'm like I couldn't believe it. Like I could believe it, but I couldn't. It's just like, you did it because you were supposed to do that. At this point in your life, that's what you were told to do. Instead of, I love her to death. I love her unconditionally. I want to be with her for the rest of my life. She has these feelings towards me and I have these feelings towards her. And we are each other's person and we are meant to spend our lives together. And we made these vows together and we're going to honor those vows and all of that fluffy good shit. No, it's because I was supposed to. Can you imagine hearing your husband say that he married you because he was supposed to?
Please keep that away from me. Because it makes no sense. It's just, but a lot of guys do it.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is like, okay, so that marriage ended because she realized what you were doing and divorced you with the quickness, but then you went ahead and got married again because like, clearly this isn't your thing. So I am happy that hopefully in, I don't know, maybe like 10, 20, 30 plus years, the new generation of people that will be our age dating, they have a better pool to choose from, because I feel like now I'm hearing a lot of non-traditional things that people want. Like I posted yesterday that you don't know anybody until you live with them, right? Because personally I feel like you don't truly know somebody until you live together. Like it's just a different experience than you would just seeing them on date night. I'm sorry, but it is. And I actually had several people say, I don't want to live with my husband, or I don't want to live with my wife. Like people just don't want to live together. Like people are really ready to either be poly or not live together, or they're swinging or whatever. They're manipulating their relationship to fit them or their situation. They're having relations with other people differently than the whole, you graduate college, you meet your person, you date for a little bit, you propose, you get married, you have babies, and you retire and die. Everybody's sick of that shit. Everybody's trying to do something their own way. And that makes me a little bit happy, because that means that you're trying to think outside of the box of what you're supposed to do. So it makes me a little bit optimistic about what those people's futures would be like. But it bothers me when I know we're surrounded by so many I'm supposed to. Like that's a little frightening.
It is. And I think, well, obviously my thoughts can only be opinions, and that's fine. But I'm wondering, I guess I should say, if even though everyone is kind of functioning and finding their own in the moment, if it will still kind of bring us back to a more one-on-one situation, because it can get really hectic. I think people are exploring and doing all of this because the supposed to just isn't working anymore. It's not clicking. Our grandparents told our parents what they were supposed to do, and this is the thing. And that mold has been broken. So I definitely think we're right in the middle, that cusp of this whole change. But and I think what's going to work for some people is going to work differently, and they should do that, because why lie? Be authentic to yourself. And if you want something different, at least even try it to see if that's your lane. But I'm kind of hoping it's like we're throwing all this stuff up in the air, but we still kind of land under some of the same principles. But I don't know if we're going to be able to rest on some of those principles if we're functioning from a false base of, like you said, high school, college. Now we dated for a little bit, married. I know men who got married in college simply because they were supposed to. And so that's what's not going to work. The force, the supposed to. I think that's what everybody's like bucking up against right now. But at the end of the day, whether you want to live with your person or not, I feel like when it comes to family and raising kids and even having sex, there's just so much going on out here. Even for men, I'm like, yeah, you want to be out here like that, but are you sure the girl that just sucked your dick was born a girl? And are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Like,
come on now.
I'm just saying.
That's
You
true.
know what I'm saying? Y'all want to play so much. There's a lot going on, and I just think being at home might be okay.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to. It's just a lot going on, so it's gonna work for who's gonna work for. But like, I don't know if I want to be caught out there like that. And I do, now that I've lived alone for so long, I can see why people don't think, they want to cohabitate. I do, but I can see why people are over it. Like,
yeah,
please get your
shavings
and basketball shorts. Huh?
I think we probably are unaware of like some of the practices that marriages in the past did have. I think that there was times that these marriages that we see that they're married for 60 years, they weren't sleeping in the same bed anymore. Somebody was sleeping in the room down the hall, and somebody was sleeping in the master room and master suite, and that was okay. We just didn't know that because we weren't having open dialogue and conversation. We weren't putting it out there that this is what we want or this is what's happening. So we didn't realize it. But I think that those things have probably been around longer. It was just a little bit more taboo. And, they had more than one room. They did it but under their own closed roof, or under their roof behind their own closed doors. And nobody knew. They showed face in public together, celebrating 50 years, whatever. Went back home. He went down here. She went over there. And it was all good for them. It worked. So I'm here for exploring and, like you said, the honesty of like what I want, because the more honest you are about what you want, the more likely you are to find and be aligned with that. And then now you meet a woman or a man that likes that thing. So now if you're running around with Stacey and Shannon or whoever, she's not going to care as much because that's what aligns with her. It's just like, just find who works for you and what works for you, and leave, like you said, Jamie, leave the rest be, because let those people find each other. Like, yeah. It's just...
Yeah, it can be a lot. One of the things I noticed, in the show, a lot of it, yes, comes from youth and being ignorant, but obviously in all of these shows, we've been able to see how much your upbringing has to do with everything. I was tripped out by Drea's story because it seemed like she had a good guy. She had the good guy with the good family. They did the Sunday dinners. He didn't pressure her for sex. And she's like, no, this is too good. I want him. He's such a jerk. What do you guys think that is in us that kind of draws us to the drama in a particular way, like that need for it?
I feel like it's a little bit of human nature, that anything that you work for is worth having versus something that comes really easily. I think, when life is going good for us, we're like, wait a second, this is too good to be true. I mean, I don't think like this anymore, but it's like that idea of like, oh my gosh, everything is going well. Something's bound to happen. Something is going to come crashing down. And if we're not going through the strife and the struggles, maybe we're not really, living or doing, or if the guy, like, think about it. It's like if a guy likes you right off top and he just comes on strong, as a woman, sometimes you're like, I don't know about him, but if he's like blowing you off, now you feel a little bit more of the challenge to like, now if you win him over, it's like something that you did is what got him versus realizing that you just already were, like you just already are. You don't need to do any more to win anything. It's like where you are right now when they meet you, you are enough. You don't have, there's no competition. And we put ourselves through these rigorous ideas and thoughts that we have to make him want me. Like I'm approved to him. And then if he says, all right, wow, look at all the things you've done. I really like you now. You're like, I did it. I won him over. It's like, bro, that never works. Like, it just never works. You just are. He shows up, and he like, yo, she's super this or she's super that, and I like that about her. And I like that she's this way because it's refreshing, or whatever his reasons are. So I just think that like we just put these false ideas of what it means to like earn something or having to earn somebody's love or earn somebody's affection, and it's unnecessary, and we just create extra drama for no reason.
I think I totally agree with that, but I also think sometimes it's just boredom, like when there's a meme I have like this, and it describes me perfectly. Like I could have the same routine with the same people every day. Nothing's problematic. It's not dramatic or anything like that. It's just, it's just flowing. And I'm going to get bored with that. Like, I don't know why, but I just will. Like, I need somebody to throw something in there. Just, just mix it up a little bit, and that's actually how I found myself in the situation that I was in with my ex that I was talking about, is because I was just it was the same day in, day out, as a single mom, like just getting up and taking my kids to daycare and then going to work and coming home, cook dinner, bath time, bed, getting up, do the same thing. I don't have anything exciting or, like I know what's going to happen next because I've been doing the same thing every single day. Right. And so you get bored with that. And so, when situations do cross your path, or maybe you go looking for those situations, and it may pull you in because it's different or may seem interesting, or it actually could be very fucking bad for you, but you're just like, well, how bad could it be? And you find yourself
let me go see.
Right, exactly, just trying to see. And maybe that's what happened to her. I don't know, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's like she had something safe and normal and just, that's what she wanted, obviously, right, at some point or another. And then at some point she really looked over and said, no, but I've had this. I want to try this now. So I think it's just maybe just boredom sometimes. That's the only thing I can. Go ahead.
I was saying, I wonder if she would have had that bad guy stuff first and then experienced the good guy, if she would have been okay and content and rode off into the sunset with him. For 6 years she was dating him and everything was great. But I wonder if she started with the bad boy, dated the bad boy for 3 years or whatever, then met this guy, if she would have appreciated it more.
When I hear of young people that, right out of high school or right out of college, jump into something serious, like, like marriage or children, and there's no lull. There's no time of them just chilling, experiencing the highs and lows of dating, or even not dating, just being with themselves or whatever. You know, you can have a whole phase, you could just be date, like whatever. But when there's no time to just be and let life take you this way or that way, and they just jump into something serious, men and women, I'm concerned, because I mean, to me, it's just a matter of time before somebody's like, I gotta do something. I gotta do something I've never done before. I need to find something exciting. I need to, I don't know, fuck a stripper or something. I need to suck a dick, a random, like just the most like the things that we have, you know, experimented and done in our 20s, you know, from 20 to 29. Like, if you don't experience that, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing type of stuff, and you get that itch when you're settled down and in a married or in a relationship with somebody, that's a terrible time to experiment or to have those first time, you know, experiences. It's like, please get all of that stuff out of the way before you settle down into something serious. I shudder a little bit when I think of people that like get married and, you know, settle down before like 25. It's just like, you never lived. Like, the brain isn't even fully matured. Like, this is not, you're still pretty immature. You're still a kid, like, according to your brain development. So I worry about that sometimes.
It's bad. I actually dated a guy who fit that exact situation. He got married, I think he was 23, and they had, I want to say, 2 kids, and had a divorce. Don't really remember what the reasons were, but by the time he got divorced, he was in his like mid-30s. And so he never experienced the whole phase, the being reckless, you know, none of that. And so he had that in his mid-30s. Now, when it's different when you're going through that as an adult with adult responsibilities.
He got 9-year-old kids.
Well, he ended up also now having 2 more with 2 other moms. And it was not so much about the family and the blended family that he had, but it was all the responsibilities, and also now being in this, just again, being an adult and now trying to date. And by that time, he was in his, I think, early 40s when I met him. And it was like, you got too much going on that you haven't really settled. And unfortunately, it limits, you know, because he was then again, like after he got his, you know, recklessness out, he was now ready to settle down again. And it was just kind of like, here I am,
kids,
like,
3 baby mamas,
like you just got
2
a
marriages, like
lot going on. And it was also things that he was beyond just on the surface. There's the financial piece that I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't talk about. Of like, if anything, you know, if you're not balling, like, these kids are out here expensive, and you also can't multiply yourself. Like, we all still dumbfounded by how Nick Cannon is doing it. Like, how are you with all your kids? You know what I mean? Like, and we know that he's very wealthy, but like, there's so much, you know what I mean? And so all that to say, he was now in a predicament of being in his 40s and trying to start over, and now having all of this other stuff that may not have had to be, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to judge too much of his situation, but all that to say, as someone who, you know, thought he was a nice man and, you know, had things on paper, you know, that were decent, he also had a lot of other things on paper that was like, yeah, that's gonna be too much for me.
Yeah.
See, and I bet you he was a nice guy. Nice guy. Like, everybody, even the nice guys got, you know, history and the way that they do things. It's not always, you know, Tani, you brought up a good point, and it makes me question, like, is it human nature for us to do things and have to work for it, or were we really programmed because that's what the society needs us to do, to work hard and so into things before we get anything? Because I'm on the fence about it all. I by no means do I know everything, but one thing I saw with the girls, and I even think about this myself, obviously, because Asia, you said it, when you're dating somebody, you start to see things down the line that you weren't aware of, not only in them, but in yourself. And, you know, the girl Drea, she had it where her dad left. So that's an abandonment issue. And at 7 years old, she's sitting out the window, dressed and ready to go. And her constant messaging by this man showing up is like, you're not worth it. You're not worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a feeling, that is a vibration, that is something you feel in your tummy almost, you know? So same thing with Melania. Her dad wasn't coming home at night. So she's up worried about her dad. Like her dad is her man, trapping at 4 o'clock in the morning as a kid, you know? So I just feel like there is something that's activated in us when these things happen in our childhood. And I think that's the itch that's trying to get scratched. Like you think you're bored, but you trying to relive sitting, you know, waiting for this man to come home that's not going to come. Like you're picking that type of guys so you can continue to fulfill the addiction, and it's not cool.
That is crazy. That is crazy. Like I'm still trying to process how real that is, that we have been traumatized by our parents, you know, but in this particular case, we're talking about our fathers, but we don't realize that we're going after that, even though we know it's bad for us and those are not healthy, you know, quality traits in an individual, but that's what we're attracted to. Crazy. And it honestly wasn't until I sat down to tell my story on All the Single Ladies. And, you know, you're really talking to the producer. They're talking, you know, asking you questions and things. And I remember we started with my relationship with my dad. And I was a little like, you know, like kind of like, what's that got to do with like
all of my
story? Right, exactly. Like, what's that got to do? Like, I'm not about to be on national television dragging my dad.
About my daddy.
Right. But even though I felt like a little like, it's all related. It's all really, truly related. And I think it was because I was just so self-conscious about my image and like how, you know, what are they going to do in the editing room? Like, how is this going to be portrayed? You know, like, what is this going to look like in the final draft? You know what I'm saying? So, but if I was being honest with myself with my relationship with my dad and that ex that I spoke about and every other man that I've had any type of relationship or situationship with, it all correlated. Like my dad, we had the same dad. My dad had me sitting up in a dining room window till all hours of the night waiting for him to come, and he never did. Like countless times he told me I'm on my way. And I didn't understand the anger my mom had towards my dad. I always thought like, why are you so mean? Like, why are you so mad at him? And it wasn't until I was like 16, 17 where I started to put certain things together. And I totally understand why she was upset because, you know, there were financial, you know, agreements that weren't met on his part. And, you know, I'm her daughter. I'm in her primary care. And, you know, she has to watch me get my heart broken like every other weekend. Like, and it shapes us, you know, in our youth and shapes who we become as young adults. And we just go out into this world and we start to look for that in these men. Hello. That's why I had the story to tell, because I was looking for those fucked up traits in another man that I want to love me and be the father of like my children. Bruh. I wish therapy was mandatory for every single individual on this planet. Like, it really took a lot for me to realize that like it started with my own dad, and like the relationship that me and my father had, it was always up and down. Like, we're currently in a good space because, and when I say good, it's very minimal. It's very, hey, how you doing? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, happy birthday. Here's some pictures of the kids. Oh my God, it's so cute. I'm working on new music. Awesome, cool. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye. It's not too fluffy. It's not too fake. It's nothing that it actually isn't. You know what I'm saying? But that's only because I forced us to do the work and have certain conversations. Like, I can count on one hand, but I can really say there were a few times where I had to remove my dad from my life because I was working on myself, or I needed him to take some accountability before he can have a relationship with me and his grandsons. And surprisingly, it worked. At one point, my dad said, let's talk, let's have a conversation. And he apologized for everything, and not no backhanded, I'm sorry if you feel that way conversation, like really took full accountability for all those nights I sat up in the window looking for him. And he just said, I did this, I didn't do that, I wasn't ready for this, I wasn't ready for that. Like, I could not believe the conversation that I was having with him. But when he took that accountability, it made our relationship better. It didn't force us to fake anything, like that's not what I wanted, but it did strengthen our relationship, and it made me understand where his head was at the time. It doesn't make it any better. There were still bad decisions, but I'm really, 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 truly grateful for that. And I just hate how, unbeknownst to us, we just, in our single life, we're just looking for basically our dads, or, that it's like, I don't know if we should actually be looking for the opposite, but yeah, I don't know why we did that.
It's so true, Aja. I can totally relate to your story with your dad, because I don't have the greatest relationship with my dad either. But it wasn't until I got into therapy in my 20s that I started to have more of that awareness of not only my own, how the abandonment perpetuates, and how you subconsciously make these choices, because of that early trauma. And it definitely has informed. I mean, I think we all can agree just how so much of what we go through in relationships, it stems back to childhood. And I know for me, it is specifically why I'm an intentional parent and an intentional mom, because it's like, no, we break in some of that stuff that happens, in childhood, and really doing something different. And it ain't perfect, but I am intentional with, just the way that I parent, because I see the clear connection of all this stuff is in childhood. And so it's really a trip. And I know therapy in itself is kind of considered a privilege for some people, unfortunately, but I agree that it needs to be mandatory at some stage, because
at least all parents at a minimum.
It's
to
so
start
real.
right.
It's so real.
Or
And
even with
think
family, family therapy.
I think as I heard you ladies talking in Asia, what you said, I felt like something else that came up for me was like, it's almost like a sense of redemption that we, I think, seek unconsciously when we go after certain men. It's like, well, I didn't get it here, but I can make it right over here. Like, I can get it and make it right. I can make it work. And then if I do, then now that means I'm adequate. That means I'm good enough. That means
because we're seeking validation.
Correct.
There's a level of validation, because something told him not showing up made you feel not important, not a priority, inadequate. But if you can go over here and get it and redeem that, you can now hold that to your chest and say, I am good. And now you're seeking validation outside of self, as opposed to finding that strength and that trust within. But it's always hard. It's always hard being chipped away at, because dealing with whatever with your parent or the one that wasn't there isn't the only thing you're dealing with when you're growing up. You have your adolescent youth when you're in school, and those kids that you have to deal with. So you now are maybe getting that feeling of inadequacy. It's showing up in different places and in different ways. And so now you finally have control over how you think that now somebody can receive you. So you fight for it over here. And you're like, I'm going to let him see. I'm going to let him know. He's going to see me. And so when he finally goes, yeah, girl, you it, you're like, yes.
And it means everything to you. It means it means too much to you.
Too much.
Like, you're putting so much weight on, like, well, if you don't think that this is great, then it's not great. I'm not great. I'm not worthy. And I was putting my value. You're basically handing your value off to another man. And it's like, it ain't up to nobody else but you. And that's what I was doing. Like, I'm still in therapy, but I've been in and out of therapy off and on since I was maybe like 17 years old. But I would say in my early 20s, I became very self-aware. And what I've realized is that is extremely rare. to be aware of oneself and everything that you do, how, you know, you could put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Like, how do they view me? How am I coming across? Like, you know, how am I being received? I mean, that is it's almost like a superpower. Like, if more people were aware of their self and their actions and their words, I mean, everybody would be probably perfect, but it made the work easier, I guess. Maybe a little bit. It made it easier. I would say it made it easier for me to do the work at the time. But yeah, when I look back on my single life, even like as a teenager, I was out here. I was out here thotting and bopping, and I didn't realize that what I was doing was looking for that validation from other guys, from other boys, or from other men to validate me, because my dad he wasn't there. So I need another male figure to, yeah, you can have sex with me, but as long as you like me, yeah, it's fine. You know, but that's, I realize that now at 36 years old, but at the time I couldn't put that together. I didn't realize that's what was happening.
It's invisible at that point, because, you know, my story is just a little bit different. I actually grew up with both my parents. My dad didn't go anywhere. He's amazing. But he was also a, you know, 20-year retired Marine and a Christian. So it's like I was raised not like a boy, but I mean, I'm not a man in this world.
Yeah.
And I'm raised.
Would you
not a
describe
man
it
in this world.
as would you describe it as a militant upbringing? Like Christian
in
militant upbringing?
Yeah, in a certain way, because that's the thing that ignited the almost like the perfectionist in me. So when you talk about being self-aware very early, I was probably hyper self-aware because things needed to be done right. It wasn't about what I wanted to do or who I was. I was very black sheep. When I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, like my dad is a Taurus, I'm a Gemini, I'm unhinged. The way he sees me, he's probably like, this girl, I cannot get her to, and I'm thinking like, why can't I just fly? So it was a rejection in that way that sent me still on the same path of needing to like prove like I'm not crazy, or the things that I like, or just to like be yourself and not be okay, even if it's not, you know, Christian or, you know, I wasn't beat on. My dad wasn't mean. It wasn't, you know, and my mom's an amazing woman too, but she's an Aries. Okay. There was no baby. How are you? She's just like, well, like, she lit. Okay. So there was no, and then, you know, me and my sisters are kind of like, we're so emotional and soft. And I've even had my mom say before, like, I don't know why you guys are so emotional. And we're just over here like, I don't know, you know, so it's like all in our feelings. So it was still the dynamic that created this need to like still prove, or to like be this and be like, see, like the way I am is good enough, you know, and not have to be. So it's just weird how you pick things up. I don't know if there's any way around it. You know, no matter the situation, I still kind of feels like there's going to be something that lingers, because the way you take things in as a child, there was nothing wrong. Now I can look back and realize my dad did not want me to grow up in this world being a complete knucklehead. Like, be aware, like this is what you can't, you know, but you know,
to
I'm
him,
a girl.
he was preparing you for the world. It's like,
period.
I'm giving her all the knowledge and the wisdom that she will need to not just get by, but you know, to, you know, really be out here thriving in this world. And to him, that's what he thought he was doing.
Absolutely. I can't even be mad. I just gotta, again, if we can introduce some therapy, maybe just a little early on, get the whole family in once in a while.
Also, I want to note that I think, you know, we talk about therapy and mental health a lot more today than any other time, which is fantastic. I'm all for it. But therapy isn't just going there, just, you know, you'll do. You don't just pick a random person and start, you know, dropping your off your bag and telling your problems. Like, sometimes you actually have to go through a few just to find certain ones that you have a connection with. To us, I'm sorry, I think the best therapists for us are other Black therapists. And sometimes we have to tweak that a little bit, you know? So like, I prefer someone that is older than me, that has lived a little bit, you know? So I don't feel comfortable going to a therapist and we're like the same age, or he or she is younger than me. Like, I need you to have lived a little bit, you know, just you know, live the real life, and you've actually gone to school and all that, you know? So narrowing it down to somebody that could relate to not only the things that, you know, we have gone through, but what's going on in our culture and in our community. I think that is
That part.
very, very important. I'm sorry, but I think there are some things that maybe a highly educated white therapist could not offer you because they don't know the they don't know a lot. They don't know a lot that
Yeah.
goes on within our culture and our community. And it's more than just, okay, well then just tell me. No, you had to be there. You had to
Yeah.
live it. You had to understand that it's just us. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then outside of that, there's also just doing the work. Like there's homework. There's work to be done when you are taking therapy serious. It's not just those 45 minutes to an hour or so that you have where you're just listening and you just walk out of there and you become the, you know, the old person. Like, no, you still have practices, you still have things you need to keep in mind, things you need to do for yourself, other people. Like if you're not ready and willing to do that work, you're just wasting your time. You're just wasting your time and your money. So as long as you have a great connection, you're with somebody that can understand at least at a minimum of what you're dealing with in your particular situation, and that you're ready and willing to do the work, you're good.
You
You're
golden.
good. And you understand, I'm sorry, and you understand it's not going to be overnight. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people think that it's just like, I've been going to therapy for 3 months. It's like,
Nah. It's a
nah.
long
Oh, so
game.
you're not warmed up yet. Got it.
No. And
Yeah.
one thing that I realized, I'd say maybe about definitely pre-pandemic, because I had a great therapist before COVID, and then COVID fucked everything up. I'd say within about 6 years ago, I realized I thought I was done. And I was like, okay, I tackled this issue, all my childhood shit, all my abuse and all of that. It's like, I'm good. I'm ready to live. Like, what's up, life? What up? Come on, 30s. And I was like, oh shit, there's more stuff. Okay, cool. There's more things. There's just more to life than, you know, just this one issue that you tackled. There's usually so much more to deal with, you know. So that was probably my most recent, you know, realization, is just like, okay, there's always some work to be done. To be the best version of yourself, there is almost always some work to be done. So I think that those are
Facts.
just some key points, you know, to take away when talking about therapy.
For sure. I think too, collectively, I saw a someone that I follow, she posted in her story, she did like a poll of like, how many of you believe that you have seen healthy relationships? Do you know 85% said no? And I was included in the
Jeez.
85% that voted. And it wasn't so much about like to something being not to be upset about it, but really just I think as Black women, is you know, women who come from Black families, of giving ourselves grace to understand like, yo, we majority of us really don't know what we're supposed to do. And so as much as we're getting the tools and we're doing the therapy and we're healing, we're still also learning how to apply those tools in a healthy dynamic and figuring out what that healthy dynamic is, because most of us have not seen it before, you know, when we're being honest. And so I think there's a level of grace, you know, that again, collectively, you know, we have to have, as, you know, the conversation of mental health and all of that. It's, you know, it's definitely out there and a part of it, but like, what else are we doing with it outside of just sitting on a therapy couch or virtually, however we're getting it, you know, like, what are we doing after all the stuff that the outcomes or whatever, you know, of those sessions, and then continuing to go, because it is, I believe it's a lifetime journey. Like we just generationally, we just got too much shit to think that, you know, that we're even going to solve it, you know, in our lifetime. So a lot of what we're doing is to try to pass on to the next the next generation, you know, so that they can do better than us. So yeah, I just was adding
That's
that real quick.
That's a good point.
that's a sacrifice, I think. Like to
It
be the
is.
one in their family to stand up, take a look around, mostly behind you, and you're like, holy, this is a mess. Nobody thought to clean this up. And then especially if you're a mother and you look forward and you look at your children and you look at, you know, what will be your hopefully your children's children and so on, and not wanting to just continue this pattern, wanting to just, you know, end this generational curse, and just like somebody's got to stand up and do the work. Like I did that myself, and I know more and more women, mostly women. I can't say it's guys are excluded, but in my experience, it's been mostly women that have done it, have really stood up and sacrificed themselves to say, this ends with me. That is very, very selfless and very difficult to do.
Very.
It's very, very hard to do, especially without judgment and, you know, just difficulty from mostly your parents, and your parents or whoever, and, you know, some aunties, cousins here and there, because things are different. It's just like, that's not what we usually do. And you like, well, this is what I'm doing, you know, because you want to protect yourself, and you want to protect your children and your children's children, and so on. Like it takes so much strength and energy to just say, this ends here, and I'm going to do my best anyway to try to change things. It's it's a very selfless act, but it's very, very difficult to do, for sure.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. You know, nobody, my sister, she's married, but if I look at everyone else, cousins, the aunties, that nobody's married. And you know, there's a lot of kids everywhere. And I didn't want to go through that either. So it's a sacrifice. I want children, but I want a husband first. And when I look at what's going on out here, it's been challenging to connect with a man that makes sense, that I can actually procreate with. So it is hard to kind of sit here and deny yourself something as, you know, beautiful as motherhood almost, because you don't want to perpetuate the mess that you've been seeing in your family, because you're seeing how it worked out and how it didn't work out. So it is really hard to, stand in that space comfortably.
But as long as we're not seeking perfection, because I feel like I had to talk to one of my sisters about that, because just having a deeper conversation with her recently, it sounded like she's seeking perfection. Like all the guys that she was saying that she passed up on, or just the reasons why she passed those guys up. I'm like, what like you're not expecting to check every box, are you? Like,
right.
I'm not saying like lower your standards, honey. Like that's not what I'm saying. It's just we need to have a balance, or try to find a balance of like who my life partner could be, or whatever, you know, half-life, whatever my partner, whatever you want them to have. But as long as we're not expecting complete perfection, like perfect for you, sure, but like just no flaws, that does not exist.
Yeah, that's not my story. If we went over my roster, you would see that's not
okay. That's not it.
Certainly isn't perfection, I was
Okay.
Try to find something to work with. Maybe that's the problem. I've been gracious. I've been very here for it, because, even Keandra, as you shared, 85% of people not seeing these healthy relationships. I've always taken that into consideration when dating Black men. I know your dad left. I know you was in this kind of life. I know, like, so many concessions, like, all right, but can we make what we have and what we know about each other and where we want to be, can we make it work together? Yeah or not? And it's just, I don't know,
finding the ones who
it's okay. It's a timing thing and whatever else it's going to be. But just back to what you were saying, it's challenging. And that's all I got on that. Like, I don't know. But we out here like trying to make it work.
Another thing that I think is happening with a lot of women that really, it makes me a bit sad, because, I feel like we all know at least one, but women, we get to a certain point, especially when we start approaching 35, because society gets in our ear, our doctors get in our ear, especially if we don't have kids at that point, and they're just like, what's up? What you doing? Because
I know.
I don't see a ring. I don't see kids. If that's what, and then like sometimes they're just direct like that, and then sometimes it's very subtle pressure to just be like, you'll do, and then you end up
like
settling.
You come here.
Exactly, and I'm seeing it happen to very close people to me, and I don't think there's no nice way to say this ain't it, or you're settling, or like relax, because it's like I understand that pressure. I felt it. Like I just had a baby. He just turned 10 months. When I did the show, I had just had him, And I remember my first doctor's appointment. I was 35. I had literally just turned 35. I wasn't even like 6 months from my birthday. And I remember looking at my lab work and seeing geriatric. I called them to tell them they made a mistake.
You made a mistake.
Like I'm not. And they're like, "Oh no, you're high risk. You're geriatric pregnancy." I'm
You're
like,
advanced maternal age.
exactly.
Yeah,
All
that's
of
frightening.
that. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
So between the vocabulary used by your doctors, or just the blatant pressure from them, from your family, from your doctors, from society, it's just like once you reach a certain point in your life, usually mid-30s, if you don't have a man that you've been with for X amount of time, or you don't have a plan to have a baby yet, it's just like no one's saying it, but it feels like hurry up and settle down, or no one's gonna want you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it just makes me sad that there's not enough women that are saying, you know what, I understand that pressure is there, but I'm not going to succumb to that shit, and I'm not going to settle, because what I have to choose from is not a lot, and when I'm ready, I will be ready for those things. And until then, I'm going to continue to wade through all the bullshit until I find my person that I want to be the father of my children, that I want to be my and my husband, or whatever, and then or whatever your label is. Like, and I'm not trying to make this strictly about like heterosexual relationships or anything. Like, to find your person. It makes me sad when I see a lot of women that just feel that pressure, and they start to make some really shit decisions as a result, and they end up settling. It makes me very, very sad. And I just, as long as they can just kind of keep their head up and not just succumb to that, it just, I don't like to see it.
Yeah. Well, you looking at me, girl? I'm still out here.
No.
I'm still out here. I ain't settled yet.
Yeah, but you're not giving me pressure is getting too much. You're not giving that. You're giving, I'm ready when I'm ready. Okay.
I mean,
that's what it's giving.
I'm ready when it makes sense, because I'm
Exactly.
not gonna do the mess. I'm not gonna do it. And I know that I'm good-hearted. I know that I'm about as even keeled as it gets. And I have my things. I can communicate them, because I have done my therapy and my work. It's not about being perfect, but it just, I don't want to go from like one hell to another. I don't want to be, procreating with somebody that I'm unsure. Now we're in this house, and granted, things may or may not work out. It's going to be what it's going to be, but I'm not going to jump into something as if let me just go ahead and no, I've cultivated too much within myself.
All the stories, all the things that you've heard, if you're not learning anything from all these other situations or situationships or relationships or whatever, then what would you and other women be doing? If you're not taking lessons from those situations and applying them to your own life. You know what I'm saying? So that's great. And it's because, why? It's because your worth, your value.
Yeah. It took a while to get here, and it's not always easy. And I'm hoping for the opportunity to be like a testimony in that space, and just be like, yo, like, I don't want to say you have time in a way that, takes people away from like the regular Western medical things, that whatever, but it definitely doesn't mean settle. I have to work at times not to get discouraged and to remain hopeful and all of these things. But to me, it's the things that are going to make me a good wife and a good mom. And I don't think, I was engaged very early on, and I believe the man 15, 19 years later still is checking for me, because he knows what he lost. And so I've always been that woman, but it can't be a settled situation. And I don't move out of fear. I don't want to. So y'all pray for me. Let this thing go right, because I want it, but we got to make good decisions. We just have to.
It's about time the men start to rise to these new bars that we're setting for them, or the growth that we're having within ourselves, and the accountability, the self-awareness, the love, the saying that we're not going to take it anymore. It's now time for the men to be like, all right, these women aren't playing, because this has been going on. I think, like I said, 2008 was when I think the birth of situationships, and we kind of went through that, and then it hit the fan like, oh, this is becoming a common occurrence. I don't want this. I don't want this anymore, and I want better, and I want more. men have still trying to ride that wave and finding those women who have yet to reach that point. But I think their happiness will also be increased when they do just mature and they like accept that, you know what, we're older now, and when you're older you put away childish things, and
Yeah.
I just hope they do, because we as women, I feel like Jamie said, it's like you gotta find ways to keep the courage to get tired out here.
Yeah, and it's so and
I'm
it's
like,
so
why did I
natural.
have to have? Sometimes I wish I didn't have such high self-esteem.
Listen.
Not wishing for low self-esteem.
No, for real.
My
'cause
goodness.
it sounds like ignorance is bliss. Like I never really understood that
Man.
statement until I learned a lot
You get
more
it.
about my family, about
You
myself.
get
Like
it.
I was happier when I was too dumb to know what the hell was going
You
on.
ain't
Happy.
know.
Like,
Listen,
and it's
I
like you
had
don't
that
want
kind
to
of man
be
bringing
dumb,
me
but
some
you're
good
like,
air.
right.
But I
We don't
kind of
wanna
want to be dumb.
Yeah, because you were happier when you didn't know. But now you got all this knowledge, you got all this truth, and you're like, well, shit. Now I have anxiety.
I mean, how do I navigate this? I feel like I'm having a panic attack. It's just kind of constant at this point. Like,
Yeah. Oh God, if it ain't one thing, it's another.
Man.
Adulting. This is all adulting.
So
You know,
true.
this is. But I try to. Oh my God, these kids. Why did we want to grow up so fast? Why? For what?
If
Yeah.
somebody could just
What?
give me a snack and a nap and let that be, I will take it. Okay.
Yeah. I be
Yeah.
wanting to sleep when the baby sleeps, but it's like, if I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't taken a
Who can do
shower in
that?
3 days. Maybe this is a good time. Like, just like, no, please be kids. Be
Be
a kid.
kids.
I remember my neighbor's daughter. She came up to me like 2 weeks ago. She's 6. She's 6, and I forget what was happening. The adults were doing something, and she had a sitter or whatever. She's like, "Well, I want to hang out with you guys." And like, I was like, "No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't.
No.
Just go in there and play with your blocks." And you put makeup on your sister, and you have fun. Eat a fruit roll up. Eat 5 fruit rolls. Like, just do whatever you want. And they're just like, no, I want to be an adult. And I'm like, why are we like this? Why are we like this? I don't get it. But
Lord.
Circle of life.
This
Because
is
then when we were
adulting.
younger, people would tell us that, and we're like, we don't want to listen. And then we get older, and then we realize that we want to tell somebody younger, and they don't want to listen.
Yeah, we don't want to
like
listen.
It's just a cycle. It's a never-ending cycle. It's amazing.
Amazing is the perfect word, because for me, yeah, it was the listening. I knew everything. I was 7 and I knew it all. Like, why do I have to listen to these people? I just want to be an adult. Now I'm just like, I don't care. Tell me what to do. I'm coloring. Like,
or when you are an adult, it's like, oh, you're 18. When you're between that like 18, 21-ish age, and your parents are still parenting, and you're just like, I'm grown. I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna have this baby, and like we'll figure it out. Like, we're gonna be together forever. Yes, I'm giving him his last name because we're gonna be together. The fuck? That was
I
a bad
still look
idea.
back and I'm like, why did nobody tell me to leave my ex-fiance alone? I brought him here. You didn't look at this man. Nobody told y'all was just gonna let me do what I wanted to do. But I know I wouldn't have listened anyway. It's so messed up.
Exactly. That's why they let you just go ahead, because they like
exactly because you said you know what you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson was more valuable when you went through. I mean, even though it was, the heartbreak and the mess, but it's because you went through it yourself and came out of it. The lesson is that much more valuable.
It's poignant. Okay.
And I think that's why I've always been very vocal about my experiences, from my sexual experiences to my situationships, relationships, things I've gone through with my family, with just in every way. Experience is literally the best teacher. Like, even though most of our kids, like I got a 15-year-old and I can tell him, I've been through this. We have the same DNA. Like, I know. He'll look at me like, what's that got to do with me? Okay, cool. But for the world or whoever will listen, I talk about those experiences, like, or just with the story that I told on All the Single Ladies. Like, I actually read a few comments of like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed for her. I would never tell anybody this story. Like, this is so cringe. And it's like, well, good thing that I'm far removed from that situation, or that person that I was in at that time. But I'm telling this story because I know other women can relate to it. Hello? Like, I know it might be embarrassing for you, but there are a lot of women in and out of this comment section that get it. They've been there, whether they've been the wife or whether they've been the side chick, or they dealt with somebody that was married and was complicated, or whatever. Like, experience is truly the best teacher. And so I don't have a problem retelling a lot of the stories and situations that I've been with, because one, they're pretty entertaining. You know, make like that's a
That
good
part,
thing from
because the butt naked hotel fight, I don't know what. I got visuals. I was just like titties and naked
Yeah,
and
it was-
blood. Like, what is
that-
happening? The security. I was like, my God.
Unfortunately, that whole scene is ingrained in my mind. But the good thing is I've learned from that. So I can retell these stories. They can be entertaining, and
Put your Timbs on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And they could be learning lessons for other people. So yeah, that situation, I still can't believe that even happened. That was so dumb.
I'm so proud of you though, because let's not front. We know girls who've been through the same and gonna turn around the next day talking about what you want to eat, babe.
Mhm.
No, the
At
only
least it
thing
was a
that
wake up call for you.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
only, like, I had a fractured rib from that. Like, I had to go to the hospital because, like, I was like, not, I had, like, it was all bad. Like, it was bad. I remember my best friend found out about it, and she was like, "Why didn't you tell me? We didn't know that." Like, I just had, once I got that intuition that something's up, and I put the Timbs on, I put the sweatpants on, I was like, now it was just tunnel vision. Like, I had to go straight there and see what was up. I saw what was up, and I saw I could finally take a step back and see what this was. And I literally said to myself, what am I doing? This is, I love this man. Look at him. What am I doing
And
with
that
my
wasn't
life?
even his wife, right? That wasn't even the wife.
No. And
How
we were,
exhausting.
and me and her were one of many. Like, and then we knew the situation. Like, child, it was a mess. It was a mess. So all I could say from that situation, it was the beginning of the end, because unfortunately what I did do, and this is another lesson that I learned, I allowed myself to be financially dependent on this man that I didn't know at the time, that was manipulating me and using me. And actually, even though I can say, okay, he moved me to LA and, you know, thanks to him or whatever, he was putting me in a place where he could check me, that he could control me. Yeah, he moved me across the country and got me a job and did all of this and set my life up and blah, blah, blah. But he also was paying my rent. He also had a key to my place. He also put me in a place where he was more often than I actually was. He put me in a place where I was more easily accessible to him. I didn't know that that's what was happening at the time. And so once I got into the fight with the other side chick number, who knows, or whatever, and it was just like, I couldn't end it right there, because it's like, I'll be homeless today. Like, it was the beginning of the end. I had to make an escape plan, essentially. So that's basically what I did after that. But it was definitely a learning experience.
I was looking
Good
at some
for you.
quotes, the other day, or it was something that I was reading, but men who used to play like that, like when they do the work, and like Tani, how you say it's time for them to like kind of step it up a little bit. Like, why don't you want to be a better person? This ain't even about me. You got kids, or whether you have kids or not, why don't you want to do better? But the majority of these men who are doing right and are married, they love it there and they're happy. And it was easier than this one, that one, this one fights, check phones, hide and did it. So I don't know where the disconnect is, and where the desire to be better doesn't override the habits, the habitual whatever. But it just seems like it would behoove men to, for those who are into it, to just get married and do the things the right way, because your money goes up. You know, all of this stuff happens. I was watching a show the other day, and it was some old school show. I don't remember what it was, Succession, maybe something like that. I don't know. But then they were just like, you know, but he's a single man. Single men don't have any status in this place, basically. Like, even in the workplace, you know, you're not as respected as a single man. They're like, you can't get a family together. What you gonna do here? Like, you still playing? We don't do that around, you know? So it just seems to me like, you know, it would be easier for them to not have to do all that and carry the weight and who's gonna call and going out in public. I used to know a dude who did not like going out in public with his wife because he didn't want to run into one of the other girls. I don't want to be walking around with somebody I care about and your stomach and knots the whole time because you don't know if this person or that person is about to turn the corner. Free yourself.
You
First
know
of all,
what,
that
Jamie?
situation
I
is
think it-
entirely messed up. That situation is entirely messed up. But what it also tells me, and I learned from the fighting the girl in the hotel situation, men are sloppy as fuck when they're cheating. And I'm not condoning cheating at all, but the way women cheat and the way women and men cheat are very, very different. And cheating overall, generally speaking, how you cheat says a lot about how you value that person that you're committed to and that relationship. The girl that I ended up fighting, he didn't go to another room. He didn't go to another hotel. He threw my shit in a drawer and was like, well, I don't know when she'll be back, but I'm going to just fuck it. I'm going to risk it anyway. And invited her to the same room that I was just in. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
The
like
same sheets. I can't get
the same. Hello, exactly. Did housekeeping come? I have no idea. I still got it. I said I'll be back. Like we didn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just the way. And then the way women. You ever hear of a woman bringing a man into her home that she shares with her husband or in the same bed? No, it's usually a man that does sloppy, messy, disrespectful shit like that. How you cheat says a lot more, I think, than the cheating itself.
That's a whole nother show.
Man, that is a whole nother show. Like my brain is like,
we all thinking about we all thinking about yeah. That's a whole nother show. Whole nother day.
Oh my God.
But,
Well,
a good point and very true.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. To add on to that, Jay, I think like some of these men, they're not rising because there's like this, because I think about things like from my perspective, right? So I'm like, okay, well, what's the fear on the other side of that? That they're not going to be good enough. They're not going to actually be able to rise to the standard of the man that society or that they believe themselves that they should be, right? So it's easier to just waddle in the mess, like just be messy, be a pig, be a dog, just be a liar and just manipulate women. It's just easy because it's like almost second nature in a way, right? Like that's your default. It's easy. And it's easy to accept the narrative that I'm a man. So because I'm a man, this is just the way it is. This is just how I'm programmed. So instead of challenging themselves to be better and rise and do better, it's easier for them to just be like, yeah, well, you know, accept it or not. This is just how this is just how I am. So now what are you gonna do? Which is what they have done to women. You know what I mean? It's forced women's hand in that way. And it's like, then you get the woman that's like, well, I'd rather have a man in my bed than nothing at all. So I'll just deal with it or I'll just accept it, you know? So I think if men really just like accept the fact that, you know what, we have been programmed and given this normalcy that we just sow our oats and we're just all over the place and this is what we're supposed to do. Okay, but what's on the other side of that? What's my higher self, you know, thinking and being, and what will that get me? And knowing that there is fruitfulness on the other side and not have the fear that somehow what's on the other side of that isn't better than what you're experiencing now.
Right.
Yeah, that comfortability and mediocrity and being cool with the lukewarm that's a personal problem. Like I'll never be woman enough to inspire you to be hot for your growth. That's on you. I
can't change people.
Yeah,
you can't change anyone. They got to change for themselves. Yeah,
exactly. And that's also, well, it doesn't make it hard, but you know, we always hear that thing where women stick around and they think they can change men, or eventually, like with my ex-fiance, I thought eventually he would grow up. We were in our early 20s, so I made these concessions and this and that. Eventually, he's still, I feel like the same person that I met. He has enough to apologize for all the things that he did. So there was a little bit of growth there, but you know, you got a third baby mama. You still out here looking like you just stepped out of Where to Party At music video. Like, why? Why? You still
Rich.
chasing J's and got chains, and you still like my dude. Like I don't know what to talk. Like
You
I don't
can't
know.
make anybody do anything they don't want to do. If they're not ready to do
That's
certain
it.
things, you can't.
Mm-mm.
And I know a lot of most of us, or we know women. We want to be fixers. We want to be fixer uppers. We want to take somebody with potential, or just they have so much potential, or just this foundation, and it's like, oh, well, I could tweak it a little bit to make it work for me. Can you?
Mm.
Can
Never. Never.
you? It
Get
doesn't
that out
even.
your mind.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. If you
There is
have
You got
to
to
no.
be
take
willing to
somebody,
accept the person as they are.
right?
Where you
Exactly.
meet them, that's it. If you can't deal with them there, then leave them be, because they may never change.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah.
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 And that's
Or
what we
if
always
they
look
do
for.
change, they may go back to the default of who they may have been because they don't even have, again, that own belief and worth of themselves. And so they might go right on back, even if they may elevate, and you inspire them, they may go right on back to, the lesser version of themselves. And that's unfortunate too.
Because it's easier.
So true.
Yeah. And familiar.
Familiar. Yeah, let me not even say easier. Because
Yeah.
it's not always easier, but it's familiar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Well,
Are we
listen, I'm about
drained?
to.
Did we drain ourselves?
No, there's just so much to think about, but I always appreciate these conversations. And, before we get out of here, let's end on this note. I would love to know what it is about your current husband and the traits that he has that were different from the other guys that you used to date. What was it about him that was like, all right, yeah, okay, ring, yes.
And where did you meet him? Because I might have to go.
A dating app.
Believe it or not, Tinder. Of all the dating apps, I met him on the Hookup-y app. At least it was
Right.
at the time. I don't know. But because at the time there was no Bumble and Coffee Meets
Hinge and
Bagel
this,
and Hinge and all of
yeah.
that. It was, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was actually against that at the time. It was actually my first summer where I started to send my oldest son to grandparents for the summer, and I had summers to myself, and it was like my first free summer, and I was like, woo, out here, don't need a sitter. Like I'm be in these streets. I was single and in the streets. I was, newly just living my truth as someone who loves themselves and set the bar a little bit higher after that guy. I was just really out here just feeling great. And my friend was just like, oh my God, you should get on Tinder. I'm having so much fun. And I was like, no, I already got a starting lineup. Like, I'm good. I don't know. I turned around like a week later, that starting lineup, everybody was benched for one reason or another. So I was just like, okay, fuck it. I'll start swiping. Started swiping. He was my first message, my first date. And as corny as it sounds, I knew that he was my guy because we were really good friends to this day. Like, just like the foundation of our relationship, like we just have so much fun together. Like, he's legit like my friend. And it meant everything to me. So it's like, in addition to like being really good friends, we did, romantic and, fun, sensual, stuff together. And it just made everything better. But if you could take away all the romantic things, all the things that made us, boyfriend and girlfriend, I still wanted to hang out with him. I still wanted to talk to him, and vice versa. Like, he is really my best friend. That sounds so corny, but it is.
I love it. I love it.
So cheesy, but it is legit the truth. And so, like, after our first date, it was just that, close the restaurant down there for like 3-4 hours date. We spent every weekend together after that. And like, I can't remember a time where we didn't see each other or just want to involve each other in everything we did, like whether we were traveling or just we're both foodies, trying a new restaurant, like this or that or whatever. Like, once we start, after our first date, we just couldn't leave each other alone. And he's just, I don't know, he's great. Keanu knows him.
Yep. That's my homie. I've known him. Actually, that's how I met Asia. Is I knew her husband for, gosh, now maybe going on 11, 12 years or so.
Wow.
It's been a really long time, but he was in the homies, and he is, I'll vouch, he's a good guy. And so outside of, all the connection that they were able to build, he is also a good guy. So that part definitely, I'm sure, has a part to play.
I
He
love
does
that.
not fit the bad boy mold or
No.
anything, and like at all. But thankfully, I've never had like I think everybody has a type or maybe like a go-to type. Of course, I had a type. I wouldn't say that it was a bad boy type, but I've always been open-minded and open to whatever I'm attracted to. Like it might be somebody that at the time it might have been somebody that sells drugs. It might be somebody that's an engineer. It might be whatever. Like it could be a geek. It could be a bad boy. Like it could be whatever. I like what I like, and thankfully, I was open-minded enough to um experience, just a certain type of guys that I was into dating or whatever. And we matched. And it's like my Tinderella story because I still can't believe we met on freaking Tinder. And we've been together for, it's going on 7 years, and we are approaching our first wedding anniversary. So, yeah.
I love it.
It's great. It's great. It's great.
Cinderella.
Cinderella and our baby boy. We just had a baby boy. I cannot believe he is about to be 1. Keandra, can you believe it?
I can't.
I
I cannot.
cannot. I'm
Our
planning
sons are actually around the same age, so yeah, it's wild how quick it is gone.
It was
Yeah,
very,
because your
very
baby's
fast.
birthday is in what, a few days? Next week?
It's next Saturday.
Next
Yep,
week.
Yeah.
25th.
Yeah. We touched bellies like right before she was
Yeah.
gonna pop, and then I popped shortly after, and I'm planning the first birthday party. Yeah, it all happened very, very quickly. Yeah.
I love it. I heard that's how it goes, but I love the friendship thing. I have experienced that. It was like that with my ex-fiance. Once we met, we were just inseparable. We were best friends. I think that's the way to do it, because you gotta like the
Yes.
Falamucka. Like, you gotta like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to be able to kick it is pretty important. So I love that. That's the way it flew for you.
Yeah, and it's still flying. Like, and to be clear, like we're still learning things like in our relationship, in our marriage. Like there's still a lot of navigation going on in our relationship. Even though we've known each other for some time, like there's still a lot to discover. There's still a lot of things to tweak and to just to work on, especially within our first year of marriage. Like once upon a time, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want a husband, because at the time when I was the other woman, because I felt like I knew what these guys were really like. That really made it. I was like, oh no, get married for what? Like, I know what these guys are really, really like, because I've held every position in a man's life. So I don't want to get married, because I really put them all in a box. I really said that all these men are the same. And it really took me meeting my husband to really say that, okay, well, maybe not. Maybe I met a different one. And I don't think this one is like many. And I think this will like really work out. And it did. So definitely opened my mind towards obviously different things and a different type of relationship than I ever thought I would ever have.
I love it. That is so good. This conversation was so good and full, and
this was fun. And we could keep on talking, but I know we all got shit to do, but I could definitely keep on talking about all these things.
Yeah, we'll have to hop on again. I had Dr. Dawn and Jaleesa on the week before last, and we talked for 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So we can
I need
go.
to fill up my glass if we're doing it.
Listen, we can go. But we should definitely
I'd love to hop on another time.
We'll have to do a
we
part
should definitely do this again.
Because I'd love to even hear our definitions of bad boys, because I even have a whole
We
thing
need
on
stories.
that. Yes.
Yeah, we could really, really clarify some things on another session. Yeah, like it really gets very specific.
Bad boys too.
Yeah.
Because I want to ask you more questions and have the discussion too on the tweaking and things. Everybody's end goal is marriage, but it's like, okay, but we got to have the willingness. We have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
There's just so many things, and you've gotten through the first year and still working and tweaking. And I think that that's an important conversation too. So we're gonna have to come back.
I would love to. I would listen. I have a lot of things to share. So just provide another opportunity, and I will be there and I will unload.
You got it, sister. All right, everybody, let's tell everyone where they can find you online so you guys can follow and stay connected. If you enjoyed this conversation, like, comment, subscribe. You know how that goes. Share with a friend, sit down, come back, put your notifications on, all that good stuff. This is where you can find me on Instagram. And Keandra, what about you?
You can find me there, but with an underscore lowercase d on Instagram as well as Facebook. Those are pretty much the two platforms I'm on.
I am choked. Oh, go ahead. Okay, I am Chokes and Gags. Chokes, the letter N Gags on Instagram, also on TikTok. But the O in Chokes is a 0 because TikTok be hating on my name. But yeah, you can find me there. Also, my at-home baking business, I ship nationwide. Choking Hazard Kitchen, providing all of your sweet treats, infused or regular, for you. That's where you can find me. I'm really just on Instagram and TikTok. I'm on Facebook, but not really. So that's about it.
I'm a follow.
Okay.
Nice. Choking Hazard. All right.
Choking Hazard.
You can find me at Miss Belafonte without the Tawny, just Miss Belafonte on Instagram. I'm pretty active there. I'm also on Twitter. Not so active there, but I'm there. And then Facebook, you know, that's a toss up. But I'm mainly on Instagram as Miss Belafonte.
Yes.
And I'm keep the MISS until I become an MRS. So we'll have to figure that part out.
Soon, girl, soon. The time has to come because the only thing constant is change. So,
Listen.
with that
Always.
being said, let's see some change up in here.
This was so fun. Thank you so
fun.
much for having me. This is a great discussion. Looking forward to part 2.
Yes, let's do it. And thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we will catch you on the next show.
Cool.
Peace.
Bye.